A very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are logging into our Facebook page from India. And greetings to all of you for joining us from different parts of the world. My great pleasure to be with all of you once again for our 18th day of the 21 Days Habit Challenge. In our discussion yesterday, as a quick recap, we heard that even the right thing that we do, even our good habit, can be bad if what it leads to as a result is bad. And even the apparent bad or even the apparent wrong that we do could actually turn out to be good if the result or the outcome it produces is good. Of course, this is not to support the proverb which says that, ends justify the means. I'm not at all saying that we should be doing bad. I'm not at all saying that we should be doing wrong, and I'm not in support of it. But this is to say that right and wrong, good and bad is not so black and white. There are many shades of grey. And maturity would mean to apply those principles, those good things, in a way that we are in accordance with that shade of grey, and we focus on the overall result and the outcome that it produces. We heard about all this yesterday. Deepika, thank you very much for the compliment. Saksham from Minnesota, good morning to you. Aishwarya Luwaliaji, thank you for joining us this morning. Pooja, very happy to have you. Kailash from Uganda, Africa, thank you for joining us. Ravi, thank you for the wish. He's wishing all of us a great day. Prayag, thanks for joining. Adit, for Silicon Valley, very happy to see you here this morning. Teki Loi, thank you for joining us. Bharti, maybe. Ashwin, Sanjeet, Indrani from Singapore, thank you for being with us this morning. Now, I think one of the lamest excuses you could ever make in terms of doing wrong and indulging in bad habits is by passing the blame to a situation, to a person, or to a thing around you. To give you an example, one could say, what can I do? I got into substance abuse and drugs because I am very lonely, I feel very depressed. So what am I doing? I'm passing the blame for my indulging in drugs to my depression and loneliness, my situation in life. Or you could say, I feel so absolutely stressed in life, and because I want to handle that stress, so what can I do? I just smoke a lot, or I just drink a lot because I just want to handle that stress. So what am I doing? I'm passing the blame for my smoking or my alcoholism to my stress at work. Or we could say, I get very incited, actually all my anger and my outbursts and my tantrums is because of the person around me. So what am I doing is I'm saying I get angry because of this person around me. So many times I say that what John Mason said, he said the most unprofitable thing ever manufactured is an excuse. It's the most unprofitable thing ever manufactured. Why? Because if we make excuses and if we keep playing the blame game, there's no question of making any progress in terms of giving up our bad habits and cultivating the right ones. And this is precisely why progress actually begins when we start taking complete responsibility for our actions, for our doings, and we do not play the blame game, passing the blame on situations, passing the blame on people, passing the blame on things, and making excuses, that most non-profitable thing ever made, and jeopardize our own progress and growth. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, Lord Krishna, in a very nice verse, explains the different dimensions of our existence and how these dimensions could take us out of this blame game and actually empower us to deal with our bad habits, our negativities, and our temptations. He begins by explaining the lowest of all dimensions of our existence, which is our physical dimension, our body, and all the senses connected to the body. Our eyes which see, our ears which hear, our tongue which tastes, our nose which smells, our sense of touch which feels, all connected to the body. our physical dimension, which is on the lowest level. To give you an example, there's a chocolate cake kept in a bakery or in a patisserie, and you happen to see the chocolate cake. You go and you indulge in eating the chocolate cake, whether your sugar is high, cholesterol, or just giving an example. You would eat that, you go and indulge in the chocolate cake. Now, can you blame saying, actually my eyes got attracted to the chocolate cake? My eyes were responsible to the chocolate cake. If I was blind and I wouldn't see this chocolate cake, there would never be a problem. You still would have your nose to smell. Can you blame that, oh, actually the chocolate cake is responsible? It's not my eyes which are responsible, it's the chocolate cake. If the chocolate cake was never made in the creation, if chocolate cake was never discovered in history, then I would never have fallen to a chocolate cake, I would have fallen to a Mohanthal. Is the object responsible for your indulging in it? Is the chocolate cake responsible for your indulging in it? It's been sitting in that show window for a long time. Many people have gone by and they didn't eat it. Are your eyes responsible for indulging in eating the chocolate cake? Really? Your eyes are there, and many other people who have eyes who've seen the chocolate cake and they didn't indulge in eating the chocolate cake. If the chocolate cake or the eyes were responsible for our indulging in it, then even a dead body has eyes, and you keep a chocolate cake right next to the eyes of the dead body. The eyes are there, the cake is there, and nothing happens. So we cannot be blaming that what can I do? The things are around me, what can I do? The people are around me, what can I do? The situations are around me, what can I do? The cake is around me, what can I do? The alcohol is around me, what can I do? The drugs are around me, what can I do? The person who makes me angry is around me, what can I do? We can't pass the blame to objects and people around us. They are around many others as well. And we can't pass the blame to our senses as well. Because it's not the eyes, it's not the cake that's responsible for our indulgence. In the Gita, Lord Krishna calls this physical dimension of the senses as Indriyani Paranyahu. Indriya means senses. But the second dimension Lord Krishna brings up and says Indriyebhya Param Manaha, even higher than the senses, the body, is Manaha, or the mind. In fact, the mind and the senses are in a very close collaboration with each other. Or shall I say, the mind and the senses are in a very close conspiracy with each other to indulge in the wrong that we want to do, or we do end up doing. I'll give you an example. Every single time our senses have had an interaction with one of those objects of the senses, there has been an experience of pleasure that the mind has had. And those experiences are stored in the mind. Giving you an example. Every single time the tongue, has come in contact with a chocolate cake. The chocolate cake is the object, the tongue is the sense. As soon as the tongue comes in contact with the chocolate cake, there's a pleasure that the mind has experienced. And when the mind has experienced that pleasure, it has stored that pleasure internally. And next time when the eyes look at the chocolate cake, the mind pushes, impels. Get it, put it on your tongue, and the resultant experience of the tongue and the cake will be incredibly amazing again. Every single time a young guy looks at a beautiful girl, his eyes look at a beautiful girl. So the eyes are the senses and the girl was the object of the senses. When the eyes and the object of the senses, the sense and the sense object, come in contact with each other, there is an experience that the mind has had, pleasure. So the mind wants to repeat it again. What's pornography? Every single time the eyes look at something on the screen, there has been an experience of kind of a pleasure inside. And that pleasure has driven the mind to push the eyes to keep doing it again and again and again. Ladies and gentlemen, is it the eyes that are responsible for pornography? No. It's the mind who has had that experience. The first time that the eyes came in contact with that made it do the second time. And when the mind got that experience, it did it the third time, the fourth time. And that's how we got addicted to pornography. That's how we get addicted to desserts and sweets. That's how we get addicted to smoking or alcoholism or substance abuse. In the case of substance abuse or in the case of smoking or sometimes alcoholism, compulsive alcoholism, it may not necessarily be pleasure. Sometimes it's pleasure. But many times it's shelter. That feeling of wanting shelter, that feeling of wanting relief from the stress. So you say, well, I'm in great stress and I'm in too much trouble in my mind going on at the moment. Too much, I'm going through too much. And then you probably go and smoke, or you probably go and drink, or probably somebody goes and engages in substance abuse, or doing whatever of these things. These are just examples. And what does the mind feel at that moment? Relief. Oh, I feel so relieved. Not necessarily pleasure. One example is pleasure. The other is relief. And then we feel, okay, every single time I do it, I'll feel relieved. And one gets habituated to doing it, not necessarily for pleasure, maybe for relief, peace from all of the stress and the situation that one is going through. Therefore, it's not the senses. It's not the physical dimension. Indriyani paranyahur. It is beyond the indriyas or the senses. Indriyebhi param manaha. Beyond this is the mind, and the mind is which is actually causing that, pushing us to do it again and again. So now Lord Krishna, in the Gita, chapter 3, in this particular Sanskrit verse, brings in the third dimension. Manasastu para buddhehe. Even beyond the mind is another entity, another dimension of our existence, which is called buddhi, or our intelligence. Now, intelligence has two dimensions to it. One is called sankalan, or the grasping power of the intelligence, and second is called viveka shakti, or the discriminatory power of the intelligence. Now, I'll give you a simple example of that. Grasping power, sankalan shakti. Every student who's going to study in school, college, university, all of us at our workplace and what we learn in our lives, even as we grow up, it's based on our sankalan shakti. You go study mathematics, you go study engineering, technology, medicine, law, you study all these textbooks, you read, and you grasp. And oftentimes, when it comes to academics, you're grasping the right thing, hopefully. But the Sankalan Shakti doesn't discriminate whether what you're grasping is good or bad. If you use your Sankalan Shakti, even if the matter that you're studying is bad, it'll still grasp it as good. It's your power of grasping. And if it's good, it'll still grasp as good. No problem. It's not going to discriminate. Sankalan Shakti, or grasping power, is simply going to be grabbing, understanding, and assimilating those things. Therefore, beyond the Sankalan, or the grasping power, is the second level of intelligence, which is the Viveka Shakti, or one's discriminatory power. And what is the discriminatory power? The discriminatory power of the intelligence is meant to discern good from bad, discern right from wrong, discern good from evil. And how do you know what's good and what's bad? Yesterday we discussed. That's what intelligence is meant to do. That's the job of Viveka Shakti, or the discriminatory faculty of our intelligence, to discriminate good from the bad, to discern good from the bad. And what is it? What is that good? Good means something that is not self-destructive to us. Self-destructive on a physical level, self-destructive on an emotional level, self-destructive on a spiritual level. Anything that's self-destructive, I do not think we would have to debate on this. Anything that is self-destructive is bad. Would anybody debate on it, that something that's self-destructive on any of these levels is good? I doubt. So what is the difference between good and bad? Good means that which is not self-destructive on any level. Whether it's alcohol, smoking, eating, whatever that habit may be, if it is self-destructive on a physical, emotional, spiritual level, that's bad. And what's good? That which is constructive, that which helps and aids and enhances our overall sense of well-being on a physical, emotional, spiritual level, that which brings us closer to our true self, that which enhances the quality experience of our life. Without having to do any of these external things, it's still going to enhance the quality experience of our joy and our happiness. And therefore, Viveka Shakti, or the discriminatory power, is meant to discern good from the bad. And it is this Viveka Shakti, it is this discriminatory faculty of our intelligence which is meant to stop that endless chatter going on in our mind, and therefore also to stop the mind from its destructive machinations that it makes us engage in. I'll give you a simple example. I don't know how many of you have gone through this. I go through it all the time. Everybody goes through it all the time. I call it the mind intelligence dialogue. Every single time we have to do something in our life, make a decision, we are always in an internal dialogue and an internal conflict, a conflict between the mind and the intelligence, a conflict between a dialogue between the mind and the intelligence. Let's take a simple example. You decide to wake up early in the morning at about 5:30 or so, because you decide that you put on a lot of weight and cholesterol is high, sugar is high, and in order to have good health, you decide that I must start going for a jog every morning. So you set up the alarm clock because you want to hit the road by 5:30 in the morning. You set the alarm clock for, let's say, 10 past 5, and the alarm rings. Now what happens? What's the mind going to say? The mind has a pleasure. What's the pleasure? Because your sense of touch is coming in contact with the sense object, the bed. The pleasure that it gets out of by cozily laying down there in bed is so good. What's the mind going to say? The mind is going to say, go to sleep. So the intelligence is going to say, what do you mean go to sleep? You just decided last night, right, that you're meant to go for a jog at 5:30 in the morning? Wake up. The mind says, no, it's winter, it's very nippy, it's really cold, and I don't think it's the right time to go out for a jog, because if I go out for the jog at this time, which is so cold, I might catch a cold. I just better not do it. The intelligence says, okay, you don't want to go out for a jog on the streets. Just 2 months back, you signed up for a membership at the Mickey Mehta's gym in Bombay. So you have signed up for that membership. So go to the gym and run on a treadmill. That's not going to be so cold. I'm sure in this winter season, temperature, the air conditioning will be adjusted in a way that you won't feel so cold. And anyways, even if you go for a jog, just after a while, even if you go on the road, you're going to start sweating and all this cold won't bother you. Wake up. You know what the mind says? The mind says, shut up, man. Last night, it was very late, and if I wake up early now and I go to work after that jog, I'm going to feel groggy. I'm not going to be in my work. I'm not going to be able to pay attention to my work. So I just better go to sleep. The intelligence says, all that fair and fine. Do you remember your cholesterol reports? Do you remember your weight that you checked last time? Do you remember your sugar levels? So you better just wake up and go. And this kind of a dialogue keeps going on within ourselves. This kind of a conflict keeps going on within ourselves. The mind and the intelligence. The mind and the intelligence. And this waking up is just an example. You could look at your own examples in life. And guess what? Who wins? Who wins? Does the mind win? Or the intelligence wins? Out of the two, the element that wins is the one which is stronger. If your mind is stronger, you go to sleep. If your intelligence is stronger, you wake up and hit the pavement. Now, every single time we listen to the mind, in this example, the example of waking up in the alarm clock, every single time we listen to the mind and go to sleep, we are not just sleeping actually. We are making the mind stronger, and in that way we are actually perpetuating the cycle of our bad habit of sleeping late and not waking up. And every single time we listen to the discriminatory faculty of our intelligence, the viveka side of our intelligence, who pushes us to tell what is good and impels us to wake up, tells our mind to just give up and wake up. Every single time we listen to our intelligence, our buddhi, it's not that just we get up from bed after having listened to our intelligence, made the mind shut up, but we have made our intelligence stronger. And in doing so, we are going to be able to listen to our intelligence in other areas of our life, not just waking up. Can you imagine? Just by listening to our intelligence the first thing in the morning, what are we doing is we are making our intelligence stronger in a way that there's a great possibility that we can listen to our intelligence later through the day and make the mind shut up by not allowing it to do its destructive stuff, and listen to the intelligence and make it do the right stuff. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we need to strengthen our viveka. Our sankalan, for more or less, is good for most of us, grasping power. Some it may be good, some may be more or less okay, and we can train ourselves for that as well. But our viveka needs to be strengthened. How do we strengthen that viveka? By hearing the right things, reading the right things, seeing the right things, being in company with the right people, hanging out with the right people, in a way that our viveka gets the right concept of what is right and the right concept of what is wrong. Many of us have a wrong concept of what's right and wrong. Our understanding of right is wrong, and our understanding of wrong is wrong as well. So what is the point if we have a wrong understanding of what's right and wrong? We need to have a right understanding of what is right and wrong. So by strengthening our viveka, by strengthening our intelligence, our buddhi, by hearing, reading, seeing, watching those things, videos, movies, hearing those people who motivate us, reading those books which tell us what's the right thing to do, hanging out with those people who prioritize those right things, just strengthening that viveka. And thereby, when we strengthen that viveka, whenever the mind brings up that pleasure, mind's like a child. It doesn't understand good from the bad. It just understands pleasure. I want to eat that chocolate dessert. I'm going to eat that chocolate dessert. Whether it's good for me, bad for me, that's not the job of the mind. It's the job of the viveka to tell the mind, shut up. And it can only make it shut up if it's stronger. And we can strengthen it by this reading, hearing, and all of these other things that I mentioned. Now, it's quite amazing. If the intelligence becomes weaker than the mind, then the intelligence also enters into conspiracy with the mind. Both collaborate. Earlier it was just the mind and the senses. Now it's mind, senses, and the intelligence, because it's smart, gives the ideas to the mind. Like the mind says, okay, someone's having a conspiracy to do something shady and not so good. The sense, let's say the eye comes in contact with someone, and then the mind says, okay, let's go, have some pleasure, have some fun. If the intelligence has also joined hands with the mind, then the intelligence gives ideas, plots of how to do it. This is why Lord Krishna now brings the next dimension. Indriyani paranyahur, senses is the first. Indriyebhya param manah, higher than the senses is the mind. Manasastu para buddhe, higher than the mind is the buddhi or the intelligence. Yo buddhe paratastu saha, higher than the intelligence is another dimension of our existence, which Lord Krishna brings up. And for that dimension, to know what that dimension is, you will have to log in to our Facebook live session tomorrow on the 19th day of our Facebook live session of our 21 days habit challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, to summarize what we heard this morning, we heard that the lamest excuse we can ever make in our life is to pass the blame on people, situations and things for the wrong that we do. The most unprofitable thing that was ever manufactured? Excuses. We can't be making excuses and playing the blame game and jeopardize our progress and growth in our lives. Therefore, we heard that the Gita gives us these three dimensions. On the lowest level is the physical dimension, our body and senses. But our senses, eyes can't be responsible for eating the chocolate cake. The chocolate cake cannot be responsible for our getting into the chocolate cake. Beyond the senses is the mind. The mind, every single time the senses and the sense objects came in contact, the tongue and the chocolate cake came in contact with each other, has registered that pleasure, and therefore when it sees, the eyes see the chocolate cake, the next time the mind says, go get it and put it on the tongue and give me that pleasure. But the mind is like a child, doesn't understand good or bad and cannot differentiate between good and bad at all. Therefore, Krishna says the third dimension is our buddhi or intelligence, which has the sankalan or the grasping power, and also the viveka or the discriminatory power. The mind, when we listen to it, is going to get stronger. The intelligence, if we listen to it, is going to get stronger. How do we strengthen that intelligence or viveka? By hearing, reading the right things, by being with the right things, watching the right things, so that we can do the right things. But sometimes when the intelligence joins as a conspiracy with the mind, that's the worst thing. Therefore, we need to look at the last aspect of our existence that Lord Krishna explains, which I will tell you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock Indian Standard Time. I wish to thank all of you for joining us for this morning's Facebook Live session. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. and have a great day ahead.